or come back a few days a week. Everybody else is working remote almost all the time. I got a guy that works for me that's in Japan that works remote.
Yeah.
And a girl that's in North Carolina that's working remote.
It's told me no, I'd be just.
I could have never.
I can't
imagined
do that.
15 years ago. I can't either.
Why that way? I do not get anything done at home.
I'm so sure.
Because like I have kids, but I mean, even like in your school, I just, something about it, I gotta go to the office to just be productive, I think.
Very easily interactive. Interesting. Way worse.
Just like because of the flexibility. Go work out for an hour. I have some errands I need to run, like get laundry going around. And then it also gives me some flexibility because if sometimes people submit that to me like late in the afternoon, so I'll sit down from like 8 to 9:30 at night on my computer and just do work. I'll work on the weekends for a couple hours. Just gives me a little more flexibility.
When you delegate a lot of stuff, it's much.
Well, right. Yeah.
People can't avoid you when you walk into their office and say, hey, do this.
That's true.
Yeah, right now.
You gotta pick up the phone, or answer your team's message.
Most of the meetings that I used to have in person, other than these, open meetings are all WebEx.
Well,
Yeah, that's definitely.
Saves time, gas, energy.
I like,
More efficient.
it's, these were done better via, because you can, it's just easy to sit on your screen and look, and just like, Jamie shares the screen or whatever. You could- It was harder with the math. The math is hard. You can't, it drove me crazy. I can't understand what he was saying.
Thank you.
With math, yeah, calling, yeah, obviously, that's probably a very big issue for you, huh?
You remember which meeting that was? I had a meeting where the gentleman was wearing a mask. And too. So
Yeah.
just-
That makes sense.
Stay away.
It's pretty much picture. Yeah.
I guess I get that off my bucket list.
Actually, it's
17.9.
Yeah.
It's a believe. Yeah. That was a young guy. I didn't. How old was he? 62, I think. Yeah.
Like 1 million is on this.
Okay. Well, it was only six.
Yes, like maybe someone understands.
Like Harvard.
No, it was actually, they said it was a low to his blood pressure go to this, what's he right back up. That's hypoglycemia. It's rare. It's not that. Most people still blood pressure's too high.
Yeah.
And you can fix it. You can.
You don't hear about having a low blood pressure.
Code or something. Usually, if you had it on. What?
Just get something.
That is an offshoot.
You can get us. Strong. Yeah.
Is it P5? Is that all?
Yeah, just 5 guys.
Okay.
If you're ready,
We can start if you're ready.
Jamie, Tony?
Oh, okay, good.
I can hear them. Everyone.
Oh. Sorry.
Good.
Good job.
Oh, it's making up noise.
Is it okay?
Oh,
It
no,
was a different.
This is making up noise.
this has got a cover on it, so it doesn't make any noise.
No.
I'd like to bring the city council back to commission to order. The August meeting, is there preliminary business, Mr.
No, there's nothing preliminary, but as we were discussing earlier, I just want to, point out that a good friend and colleague, Dave Rice, had passed away about a week and a half ago, and we all do very well. Acknowledge him for the record. No details to share, but if we hear more, I'll pass it.
I think you're very sad to hear that, for the record. Then we will go to our first case, which is DC 22-007, 2581 Walcott Road, with the applicants please come forward. Yeah. Sorry, Councilor, choose something again.
I do.
Future name for the record and your affiliation to this case.
Rebecca Green, and working as agent for the applicant.
Thank you.
You want to swear us in as well?
Yes, sir. Sorry. Sorry, Councilor, apologies, no, choose something. Yeah. Would you paint your name for the record, your affiliation to this event?
Jamie Free, City of Columbus staff.
Adam Trimmer, City of Columbus staff. Smith Buckley, City of Columbus staff.
You can, please pick it out. So you're presenting.
Yeah, please. Okay. First case is GC 22-007, 2581 Walcott Road. 2581 Walcott Road is located on the west side of Walcott Road, approximately 350 feet north of Roberts Road. The site is zoned LAR1 residential and is located within the Far West Side Area Commission. Okay, the subject site is developed in an apartment complex. Surrounding uses include single unit dwellings in the north, apartments to the west, auto-oriented commercial to the south, and a manufacturing plant to the east. The applicant proposes to remove a wall sign that says Payton Park. From the leasing office, and instead install a wall sign that says leasing office. They would also propose to install 2 monument style ground signs. Slide. They're in your pack. So 2 monument style ground signs flanking the entrance to the complex. The requested variances are to increase the graphic area of a residential complex instructional sign, which is the leasing sign, from 4 square feet to 5.112 square feet. To increase the number of ground signs at an entrance to a residential complex from 1 to 2. To reduce the setback for the ground signs, we can go back to the site like that. From 15 feet to 6 feet 3 inches, and to increase the height of each ground sign from 4 feet to 6 feet. The Preview Roberts area plan states that development should create a positive sense of identity at their entries through landscaping, decorative fencing, and complementary signage. The Division of Traffic Management has no issues. The Far West Area Commission recommends approval. City staff can recommend approval as, again, the proposed signage is consistent with the Preview Roberts area plan, which states that development should create a positive sense of identity at their entries through landscaping, decorative fencing, and complementary signage. And there are no conditions.
Now, would you present the case?
Yes, sure. Payton Park is had an ownership change, and they're wanting to update some of their signage, specifically on the leasing office or the main office. The current sign just says Payton, and they felt that since the name of the complex was Payton Park, that they wanted to remove that sign and instead just indicate the use of that particular building, which is a leasing office. So they wanted to make that just say leasing. And then they wanted to place 2 identifying ground signs on either side of the entrance to the complex. The entrance is a private road that goes back in and around the apartment complex. It's and it's called Stephanie Cave. And so there's the road. We would like to have monument style signs on either side of the road. And then, and reason we're asking for the site triangle, and there it is, the site triangle variances is that there's a sidewalk that's very tight up against the from Walcott Road into the complex. It's very tight, so we are limited the number of space that we can use to put this ground sign in. The owner thinks this will be a very attractive signage. The Far West Area Commission was happy to approve it. So
Thank you. Are there any questions?
We heard this case before, or I feel like it looks familiar. No? Okay.
Well, it looks like every other suburban apartment complex.
Yeah, fair.
Is there a reason you need two signs instead of one in the front entrance?
The owner wanted to have two complementary signs on either side of this particular entranceway. This is a 45-mile-an-hour road that goes in front of this complex. The other side, the south side of this road, is warehouse. And so it was the feeling that due to the busy nature of this road, the high-speed commercial area, that the double sign would be most beneficial.
Thank you. Not hearing any questions. Is there a motion for finding fact on this one?
I'll make a motion, based on the facts presented by the applicant and staff, that the evidence supports a hardship.
Is there a second?
I second.
In favor, you sign by.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, have it. And we have a motion based on the finding fact for approval.
I'd like to make a motion based on the finding of facts that we've received with approval of this variance.
Call roll, please.
Need a
Oh,
second?
did I get a second? I didn't hear a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Ms. Augustine? What's your vote?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Mr. Bender?
Yes.
Mr. Coopman?
Yes.
Mr. Hoyle?
Yes.
And Chair Thompson?
Yes, and it was approved. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next case is GC 22-008, 2127 East Livingston Avenue with the applicant's report. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Repeat your name for the record and your affiliation to this case.
Jack Reynolds, I'm an attorney with Smith and Hale, and I'm here on behalf of the owner and the applicant.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah.
All right, case number 2. GC 22-008. 2127 Livingston, East Livingston Avenue is located on the south side of East Livingston Avenue, approximately 385 feet west of Sheridan. The site is zone C4 commercial and is located within the Mid-East Area Commission. Subject site was previously developed with an office, check cashing and loan business. Within the Livingston East Avenue community commercial overlay, surrounding uses include eating and drinking establishments to the east and west, an auto dealership to the north, and a recreational facility owned by the Jewish Community Center to the south. The applicant proposes to convert the office to an eating and drinking establishment, the drive-through use, the requesting variances to increase the total graphic area of the pickup unit ground signs from 30 square feet to 40 square feet, and to increase the graphic area of a sidewall sign from 16 square feet 25 to 25 square feet on the east elevation, and from 0 square feet to 40 square feet on the west elevation. They're further requesting a variance to increase the height in the order board from 6 feet to 9 feet 10 inches. Planning staff recognizes that the 2 proposed visual menu boards are for the site's internal use only and are not meant to be visible from the right of way. The other signage is consistent with Columbus citywide planning policies, CQP2 guidelines that indicate that wall signs should not obscure or interfere with architectural lines and details. The Division of Traffic Management has no issues, and the Mid-East Area Commission recommends approval. Staff can also recommend approval, as the 2 proposed menu boards are again for the site's internal use only, are not meant to be visible from the right of way. The other signage is consistent with Columbus citywide planning policies guidelines that indicate that the wall sign should not obscure or interfere with architectural lines or details. We're not asking for any issues.
Okay, thank you. Reynolds, like,
Yes, sir. As you saw, this is another ubiquitous coffee shop. And this is their typical signage package. They've got the disc over the front door, disc over the drive-through, and then the band on the west side that says Starbucks coffee. So they're competing with Taco Bell on the east, Wendy's and Popeyes to the, Taco Bell is to the west, and Popeyes and Wendy's is to the east. It is a 4-lane road at that point, 35 mile an hour. So they're just simply trying to compete with their neighbors and be visible. as people use East Livingston Avenue, and as Jamie indicated, they have their pre-order board, their menu board, and their actual ordering station, which is kind of a video order screen. And I think that's where the height comes from, is that they've got so that when you roll down your window, you've got a roof over the ordering area. So that's where the extra 3 feet 10 inches comes from. So again, it's kind of what's already out in the neighborhood, and we're just trying to compete with our neighbors. And I can answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Not seeing any. Do I have a motion for finding a fact on this, Mr. Wolf?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the finding of fact presented by Mr. Reynolds and the staff to be consistent with the site conditions and the needs of this location.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, you say aye. Aye. Opposed? Guys have it. Can I now have a motion for approval based on finding of fact?
I'll make a motion to approve the application based on the finding of fact.
There's a second.
Second.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes.
Mr. Cooperman,
Yes.
Mr. Hoyt,
Yes.
Ms. Augustine,
Yes.
and Chair Thompson.
Yes, and it is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, this is our third case, GC 22-018, 1100 East Broad Street. The applicant, please come forward. Very tell whole truth, not the truth, so you have to get your name for the record, your affiliation to this case.
My name is Caleb Moore with Moore Signs. I'm a subcontract installer for American Sign Studio and their client, Columbus Housing Authority, also known as Jenkins Terrace.
Thank you. Who's presenting this, but Mr.
Also,
Clerk?
I'm gonna ask, I'm sorry.
Jenkins Terrace.
1100 East Broad Street is located in the northeast corner of East Broad Street and North 22nd Street. It is zoned ARO apartment residential and part of the Near East Area Commission. The subject site is developed with a 4-story senior living center. Surrounding uses include the offices for the City of Columbus Department of Recreation and Parks. To the south, single unit dwellings to the north and west, a vacant lot directly west, and an apartment complex to the east. The applicant proposes to construct a 5.4 foot tall, 36 square foot monument sign. Variances are requested to place an identification sign 2 feet from the right of way. The Near East Area Plan recommends that ground signs be an appropriate distance from the street, specifically along the Broad Street corridor. Proposed the ground sign is appropriately placed based on the nature of the corridor and is consistent with the plan's recommendation. The Division of Traffic Management has no comments, and the Near East Area Commission recommends approval for this request. Staff can also recommend approval as the proposed ground sign is appropriately placed and is consistent with the Near East Area Plan.
Okay, thank you. More to add in your case?
Just to state that the proposed sign is to replace their old sign that was struck by a vehicle. The variance is requested because of the bus stop that is directly to the east of the sign area, which obstructs view of the sign. There is a provision in this city sign code that allows for a 2-foot setback from right of way for any obstruction behind right of way, but in this case, being a city bus stop, it is actually in front or within right of way.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I do.
Mr. Ward?
I love the sign where it's at, but I am going back to why wouldn't the city, maybe somebody can help me here. Why wouldn't the bus stop be considered blockage to allow you, because that is how the code's written, to allow you relief and just get a permit because of that?
That I actually applied for a permit under that code and under that section of code that allows for a setback reduction. Because of the way that the code is worded, I can read it to you. This would be section 3377 .17, section D, visual obstructions by existing building or structure. Where a building or structure that constitutes a visual obstruction other than another on-premise sign precedes the subject property in the direction of traffic flow and lies within 160 feet of the midpoint of the street frontage of the subject property and is less than 20 feet behind the public right-of-way line. It goes on to say an on-premise ground sign may be erected within the trailing edge at the setback of the obstruction. Such ground sign may encroach upon the right-of-way, subject to the provisions of 3377 09. Right-of-way encroachments is where I got the 2-foot setback from. I was told by my reviewer that because it states that the word behind public right-of-way, that obstruction is no longer considered an obstruction of that provision. Because it's in front, it's within right-of-way, not behind right-of-way.
Yeah, I just find that amazing that that's not, that planner didn't see it that way, and I kind of worry about future.
I agree 100%.
So to further on that statement, I had questioned that myself to the point that I approached Walter Green and his statements, my same argument. His email response was, Nick has shared his review of the application and interpretation of the code with Chris Brizzuti, and we both agree with it. The relief from obstructions allowed in the code is not meant to solve every case of obstruction. Sometimes a variance may be needed. The interpretation of the code that we are sharing with you is the same as we utilize in the past requests for relief from obstructions. When implementing the code, we can't depend on our view of the intent of the code. We have to base our decision on the specific language of the code. Based on a review, a variance would be needed to erect the sign in the location that you are proposing.
Well, I appreciate you doing that, and it's, in this case here, it sounds like the city's paying for the variance.
Yeah.
The hardship is the interpretation of the.
I think that's
Correct.
staff, yeah. But I'm all in favor of that.
Well, in layman's terms, he would need a variance anyway.
And here, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if there was no bus stop, to be at the setback.
At the setback.
So that's the.
Right, that's kind of backing into it.
Because you're at 2 feet. Could you put it at 15 feet?
Obstructions there.
That actually is a good question. The building being so close to the road the back of the sign would be awfully close to the building at that point. I think it was discussed that it would be less than a foot away from the building if it were put.
Well, and then looking on the drawing, it looks like even the entry features, these big brick entry features of some sort. Now, they don't have near the setback problem, but they do have some sort of an issue. Like,
Those have since been removed, so yeah.
oh,
Otherwise, that would have posed an obstruction as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion.
Is there a motion for the finding fact in this case?
I'd like to make a motion that the facts are presented by the staff and also by the sign company that this is adequate to move on for a variance and would like to throw that out. Say that there again.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, you sign by aye. Opposed, you guys have it. Now do I have a motion for approval based on the finding facts?
I'll make a motion that the application should be approved based on the finding of facts to approve the variance.
Okay, thank you. Call the roll, please.
Second.
Did I get a second again? I didn't get a second. Thank you.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Moy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Mr. Bender,
Yes.
Chair Thompson.
Yes, and it is approved. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Next case is GC 22-019, 4910 North High Street. The applicant, please come forward.
For the right address, yes, it is.
Swear to tell all the truth and nothing but the truth to help you God.
I do.
Would you repeat your name for the record, your affiliation to this case?
Miss Tracy Deal, TracyDiehl, and I am the agent for the applicant,
Thank you, ma'am.
Chick-fil-A.
Who's presenting this one? Mr. Smith?
GC 22-019, 4910 North High Street. It's located on the northeast corner of North High Street and Morse Road. It is zoned CPD, Commercial Plan Development District, and is located in Twinville Area Commission. The 2.26 acre site is comprised of two parcels. The front parcel is developed with a commercial structure that was previously a restaurant with associated parking. And the rear parcel is partially developed with a parking lot. Surrounding uses are commercial to the north and south, multi-unit residential directly to the east, and single-unit residential to the south and further to the west. The applicant proposes to install two changeable copy menu board signs, rebranding a relocated ground sign, and the installation of an additional ground sign for an off-premises tenant. The requested variances will allow for two changeable copy menu board signs in the drive-through. Those are indicated as H1 and H2. They reduce setback for a ground sign from 15 feet to 0 feet. That'd be sign A2. Special permits for two off-premises ground signs for two separate uses. Signs A2 and A3. And you go for the second line, that one, the zone one. Yeah. As you can see, there's a parcel line that goes straight through the parcel, and that's why there's the special permit for the off-premises signs. And then a special permit to allow menu board signs, the H1 and H2. A special permit to allow clearance bar signs and increase sign area on the second frontage, which should be Morse Road, from 30 square feet to 58.75 square feet. Planning has stated that they are generally supportive of the proposal, but do not support the refacing of the pole sign, sign A2, and request it be modified to a monument sign. Although staff acknowledges the sign is existing and the Clintonville neighborhood plan discourages pole signs, among others. Consistent with plan guidelines, staff are not supportive of the pole sign requested to be modified to a monument sign, similar in character to sign A3, which is supported. Although the plan also discourages electronic and digital signs, staff recognizes the H1 and H2 signs are internal to the site and are ubiquitous for uses of this nature and therefore supported. Staff are also supportive of the wall sign area along Morse Road frontage as consistent with plan recommendations that signs keep with scale and size of the facade and not interfere with architectural details. The Division of Traffic Management has no comments. Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this request. City staff recommends disapproval of the proposal because the Clintonville neighborhood plan discourages the use of pole signs. Staff can support the request if the sign was modified to a monument sign.
But the Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this.
Correct.
Ms. Deal, would you like to present your case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the commission. So there's a lot of things going on here. The simplest way is to explain it with that illustration of the property line division. So we have, in this particular case, we have a Chick-fil-A that is going to be built where the old TJ's building used to be. And we also have the widening of a right-of-way along Morse Road. And that widening of the right-of-way is the reason why that Valvoline sign along Morse Road that's proposed cannot simply just be respaced. It's an existing non-conforming sign that if it was left where it was, could be refaced and just left there. But because the land has been donated by Chick-fil-A as part of this widening of the right-of-way, the land donation they have decided that they need to move this sign to bring it back behind the right-of-way line. Otherwise, this pole sign that's there along Morse Road, the real sign that everybody has a problem with, that sign would be able to continue to exist. It could just stay there and be refaced and be a non-conforming sign that's refaced. But because of the widening of the right-of-way, Chick-fil-A wants to get that sign out of the right-of-way and move it back behind the right-of-way, but continue the use of the same sign and just reface it. So if they didn't do anything with that sign and they left that sign there, they could reface it. It could continue to exist as a non-conforming sign. But because of the widening of the right-of-way, they want to move it behind the right-of-way line to allow for that to happen. So that is why that sign right there is a problematic sign. The other signs that we're
Before
here
you
for.
leave that, Mr.
Yes.
Are they being required to move it?
They're not being, they are as part of the widening of the right of way.
Okay.
Is it like an eminent domain project across the board, or is it?
Mr. Freeze seems to know more about it than I do.
The real estate division typically pays for not only the variance procedure, but the quote unquote taking of the land.
It's a take, yeah, so it's a taking, but that has nothing to
But a
do with the
well-compensated
application.
taking.
I mean, it has nothing to do with the application itself, it was just in place.
It was
Prior
something
to.
that was occurring as part of the development of the land, the CPD, the formation of the CPT, and all of these other things that are going on with this property.
So the widening of Morse Road is,
The widening of the right of way, yes, along Morse Road.
But I will agree that Tracy is right, that the widening of the right of way would render the sign in the right of way.
Right.
You're not allowed to have sign in the right of way, so.
Yeah, so you do have to.
It would have to be removed, but it could not be reinstalled at like for like because it's now not conforming.
And so hence the reason for the need of a variance to take that existing sign and relocate it outside of the right of way.
and your client's objection is to making that into a monument sign.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A has stated that the donating of the land for the right of way has put us in this situation and that they would rather just not donate the land and keep the sign.
Is that an option? I'm not sure that's an option.
It's,
It's
could-
the statement that was given to me.
they can, they can litigate,
Yeah, but
they can argue over the value of what that taking
Right.
is worth, but they can't fight the actual taking.
Right. So that's why we're in this position with that particular sign. That's just one of many things that we're here to discuss today. But I figured since that's the one that has the objections on the table, it's probably the one we should spend the most time discussing.
I'm not sure with your site layout. Where's the Valvoline going?
The Valvoline would be on the eastern half of the property,
Oh, that blank space
in
right
that
there?
blank space there,
Okay.
yes.
And
And so
there,
this sign would identify Valvoline and Chick-fil-A.
oh, okay.
It would be a joint identification for the Morse Road
And it's
elevation.
off premise because it's a different parcel.
It's off premise because it's a different parcel. So it turned out that what happened was the attorney kind of dropped the ball and didn't merge the two parcels and form the two parcels into one. And so rather than wait for the attorney to form the two parcels into one so that we could keep the construction moving, we're seeking a special permit for the off-premise signs because they're not all on the same parcel. At
If-
some point, these two parcels will be one parcel.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, if they were combined, I mean, it's really easy to combine a parcel, it takes.
Just
not-
time.
No, not, I mean, splitting a parcel is hard, combining a parcel is very easy, you can do it in 10 minutes, honestly. So if those were one parcel, would the variance be needed?
Yes.
A variance would still be needed because it wouldn't comply with the setbacks. It would be outside of the right-of-way line, but it wouldn't comply with the setback. And also because the development plan prohibits or discourages the use of pole signs, a variance would be needed as well.
Wow, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and then there's also the fact that we need a special permit for the menu boards because the menu boards are digital and they're not on the Chick-fil-A parcel as well. They're on the separate parcel. And then we also need a special permit for sign A3, which is up in the northwest corner of the lot, because that sign is technically an off-premise sign as well. It's not on the Valvoline parcel.
It's where? Oh,
It's
that's
on the
Valvoline
Yeah,
sign?
that corner.
Oh,
That's on the Valvoline parcel.
okay.
So would you, well, James,
This identifies the entrance to Valvoline because there's a driveway entrance where Valvoline cars would come in through High Street at that entrance.
Jamie, would you still object if this was one parcel versus two, or is that?
The comment from planning would still come up about the Clintonville neighborhood plan discouraging, pole signs.
But they
That's our
don't-
only objection. to pole signs.
Yeah, that's.
But they've already approved it.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I should also point out to you that the historical TJ's sign that's on the corner isn't part of our discussion today at all, and it's a legally non-conforming sign that they fought to keep.
Is it now within the right of way of the taking?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow.
They fought to keep it exactly where it is, and they fought extensively.
I read about that.
And they encouraged us to refurbish that sign, so we've gone to great lengths to refurbish that sign and keep it. And they're working on registering that sign as a historical sign. So the Clintonville Neighborhood Association, the Community Association, they're not against any of the signs. They're just against having a Chick-fil-A there. So to be honest with you, but they're not, overall, they voted for approval, knowing that it was a full sign.
And the sign, the sign of the corner is
The
full
big
sign.
sign. That is a legally non-conforming sign that the permits have already been issued for.
So this really would not be much different. It really is more consistent with the sign on the corner.
Yes. So the signs here, if they're trying to keep the site signage as simplistic as they possibly can with, keeping the two signs along Morse Road that are already in existence, just moving that whole sign back. And then just including a monument sign along the High Street entrance, the Valvoline sign for Valvoline customers to identify the entrance to Valvoline. Because the entrance along Morse Road is not where the citizens in that community want people entering. They want them to enter from High Street. So they've designed the site all around all of this input. And then there's the wall sign. The wall sign that faces Morse Road is also, that identifies a pedestrian entrance. It's labeled sign E on the site plan. And this is a Chick-fil-A wall sign that needs graphic approval because this is the sign that exceeds the allowance. But that sign is identifying a pedestrian entrance as well as it's visible from both points of entry at the intersection.
Thank you.
On top of that, the clearance bars
Oh, yes.
require a special permit because the clearance bars are not on the same parcel as Chick-fil-A. So they're part of the special permit. The menu boards require a special permit because they're not on the same parcel. They require a special permit for being digital. And then that ground sign, that monument sign that we discussed requires a special permit because it identifies a tenant that's not on its property. And I think I've covered everything.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Pressed.
Yes.
I can say to you, I do Chick-fil-A nationally. This just happens to be in my backyard. So I've been handling Chick-fil-A permits for 11 years nationally. I handle new construction on national level. This is consistent with a normal Chick-fil-A site other than the preservation of this giant historic monument.
Okay, thank you.
Is this the messiest one you've ever done?
It's probably the most complicated because of the location.
Do I have a motion for finding of fact?
Before you do that,
Yes, sir.
I just want to make a few comments here because I don't, in all my time representing the commission, I don't think you've ever entertained a motion for a special permit. You do have the power to grant a special permit if all of the conditions, all the following conditions are met. And so when you do your finding of facts, I would make sure that there's some articulation that there's no substantial detriment to the public good. There's no substantial impairment of the general purpose and intent of the zoning district in which the use is proposed to be located. And it's not an or, it's an and, all three. No significant.
Excuse me, what was the last one?
I'm getting to the last one right now. No significant incompatibility with the general character of the neighborhood. I can repeat those three if you want.
Or we could just restate what you said on the record and incorporate it into a motion.
That's
So I'll make a motion based on city staff, city attorney, and the applicant. The facts presented all support both a special permit and the conditions and elements for a special permit, as well as the hardship for a variance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor, you sign by. Opposed? Ayes have it. Can I now have a motion for passage based on the finding of fact? Who wants to delve into that? You don't have to restate his.
I'll take a stab at it. I'd like to present a motion to proceed with approval of this package based on the finding of facts and that that there is no impact to the community and it's compatible with the whole setup and so.
Now, there are no conditions either, so based on that, let's vote on this.
I'll
Oh,
second
I
Mike's
didn't get a
motion.
second.
The motion that was made by Mr. Hoy, I think just spoke to the variance, but not to the special permit. It just needs to be a motion to approve both variance and
If you,
special.
if you say that it's based on the passage of the finding of fact, which included the special permit, isn't that enough?
Said approve the package, which includes
Oh, you
both.
said the package.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's clear that you're approving both the variance request and the special permit.
That's what I understand.
Thank you for
Yes.
saying that.
Thank you.
Yes, I do want to include all.
Let's vote.
Mr. Hoy,
Yes.
Ms. Augustine,
Yes.
Mr. Bender,
Yes.
Mr. Cooperman,
Yes.
and Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Does that mean it passed?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you come back for the other sign? I mean, that's a non-conforming, maybe it doesn't.
Well, it's approved, the permit has been issued.
Oh, okay.
So we tackled that very early. See, what happened was Day-Night Signs was handling the permits because, you know, the city's permitting requirements, it has to be through a contractor. Normally I handle their permits and we have certain companies that will handle the permits for them, but Day-Night has control of their own permits. We have a good relationship with them, but they wanted to handle the permits themselves. So they submitted the permits, but they didn't realize that I was pursuing a variance at the same time. So some of our permitting review and denials came like after I had submitted my variance. But the biggest thing was that we needed to make sure that none of that signage needed a variance that we hadn't uncovered. I wanted to make sure that when we came in here, we were covering the whole site at once. So through that process, they were able to get that permit issued. That permit has been issued. So it's already approved.
Very impressed with the work you did.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
City staff, I mean, they're all of you. Yeah, I think you're.
Well, this, I was gonna say, this collaboration between you.
I can't ever remember.
Yeah, once you said that, it was very helpful.
But I can't say that it
Been a
was
long
just
time.
him that helped me. It was everybody that helped him too, because I know internally there were meetings and conversations about the site. Like, we did a lot of, I wanted to make sure that we uncovered anything and nothing was missed.
Thank you for being
So
a
I
person.
appreciate that work.
Next
Thank you.
case
Thank you.
is DC 22-020, 3628 West Dublin Granville Road.
Complicated.
That was crazy.
The applicant, please come forward. Ms. Green, you've already been sworn, so you can take a seat. Who's presenting this for Mr. Smedley?
DC 22-020 and 3628 West Dublin Granville Road, located on the west side of Sawmill Place Boulevard, approximately 240 feet south of Bentry Boulevard. It is zoned Commercial Plan Development District and is located in the Northwest Civic Association. The 3.99 acre site is part of the Sun Center Shopping Plaza. It is currently developed with a multi-tenant medical structure. Surrounding uses are commercial to the north, south, and west, an undeveloped parcel further to the north, and multi-unit residential directly to the east. The applicant proposes to install 394 square feet of signage on the front west facade and 128 square feet of signage on the rear east facade for a new retail space tenant in a shopping center. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the allowable graphic area of signage on the front west facade from 56.24 square feet to 394 square feet, and to increase the allowable graphic area of a wall sign on the rear east facade from 16 square feet to 144 square feet. Should we note that in May of this year, staff supported and the commission approved an increase in graphic area for the rear wall sign to 50 square feet at the applicant's Hilliard Rome location. And it should be further noted that the front elevation sign for that one was 123.5 square feet. Planning supports the front facade graphics proposal, but not the rear facade as presented. Northwest Plan discourages the use of excessively large signs. Planning would be supportive of a rear sign that is reduced in scale, consistent with plan guidelines and other tenant signage. Division of Traffic Management has no comments. The Far Northwest Coalition of Columbus recommends approval of this request. Staff recommends disapproval of the proposal because of the excessively large sign located on the rear facade. Staff would be supportive of a redesigned sign that was reduced in scale. And not recommending any conditions.
Thank you. Mrs. Green, you have present your case?
This is, the prior tenant here was Steinmart, and Ross Restaurants is trying to, introduce itself to this location. It has this particular, part of the reason for the area variance request, show the parcel. It's like a, yeah. So this parcel is very specific in that it bisects it goes around on the north side, it goes around the outside, the strip mall. Then it's very, very close to the front of the building. And then it bisects the building and goes back to the road behind it. And as a result, we don't have a very large mass factor to work with. It is a very unusual kind of parcel to work with. The area itself is a large strip center, but all of which have very large signs, single letter, channel letter kind of signage. The signage that we're asking for is very similar in design. Ross Dress for Less, their signs are always blue, individual channel letters, just like that, and they always have that sort of spacing. And if you use the standard of drawing a rectangle around all those letters in this way, their signage impact is very, very large. But if you if you would just use the channel letters, we're looking at 125 square feet. If you do just Ross and then the lines like Dress or Less, it's a little, I think a little more than 241 square feet. So it is a large sign, but it's a large sign because the way the letters are placed and spaced, you see a great deal of the structure of the building, the wall of the building. And this sign is typical of the Sun Center strip mall. This corner of Sawmill and 161. They have some smaller signs that are also on this elevation. There are two little plaques, like this, that are on the outer edges of their building, their space that sort of marks them. It's again a typical sign for this particular store. So we are looking for variances for area for this particular sign. On the back, there's a back that runs along the, is it Federated that's back there? I can't remember the name of the road that's back there behind the strip center. It is typical of all these stores that have signage on the back facing this road that surrounds the center. And we're asking just to have a similar sign as these other signs have.
Is it similar in size to the other signs back there?
It's not that different, no. I would say the Michael sign is very large. The Five Below is less. And the sign that we're replacing is a very large sign as well.
I loved.
Is the reason staff not approving it because it's not consistent with the local code, just like the last one?
The plan saw it as being too large.
But it was approved. But they also approved it.
Well, hold on. We have to differentiate between the area plan, which is what planning writes and what guides our recommendations, versus the neighborhood group.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Neighborhood group is, volunteers.
Sure.
Live in Clintonville and come and speak. The plan is what is generated from the staple.
Distinct from the
Yeah.
last case.
And that's the guiding principles of the development pattern of the area.
And the area, well, it's not an area commission, the neighborhood group, also questioned this sign in the back, but they all also indicated they realized that signage is typical to the back of this particular shopping center and exceeded the 16 square feet.
Oh, good, yes.
So, they, I mean, I think they also struggled with it, but they already moved with it.
And I did take a look through our system, and as far as I could tell, none of the signs along the back of this building have received a variance for it to be there.
No, really. Well, they're not really obtrusive. I live up there and I used to go to Steinmart all the time. Probably it's closer from Steinmart. But I don't think that they're similar in size of that as those are, that it's a problem at all. Do I have any more questions? Do I have a motion then? We're finding a fact in this.
I'll make a motion that based on the facts presented by the applicant and staff that support a hardship and that the variance is warranted.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor, please sign aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
The motion carries. Is there now a motion for approval based on the finding of facts?
The lady's here to speak.
I'm sorry, did you need to speak to this case? Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this application based on the finding of facts?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Then let's call roll.
Ms. Augustine?
No.
Mr. Bender?
Yes.
Mr. Cooperman?
Yes.
Mr. Hoy?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is the portion.
Is there any other business, Mr. Stratus?
We're regular.
Okay, in that case, we are adjourned.
I mean, that matter.
For what is happening?
Each one is they're all big. They're just trying to identify. Actually, I guess the.
I mean, well, you can still see the sign. It's not like it's a wall.
Basically.
On the right.
Well, see, thanks.
I mean, they're saying that, I mean, I can make the argument, yeah, it's gonna be blocked. That's, there's, you know, aluminum stand. I was explaining. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to understand this. I don't know that.
That one's really weird.